Well, last week I talked a big game. I committed to 3 episodes a week for the whole quarter. Now, I made a really big deal of this and I explained how I was ready to quit, but I decided not to, that I was going to stick to my goal, my one thing, and really focus on that. Well, that plan lasted all of 2 weeks that I've done 3 episodes. This week I'm only publishing one. But before you judge me and before I judge myself, I want to show you why beating yourself up when you don't make your goals is actually the least productive thing you can do for your business. Welcome to Mastering Business Flow, the essential podcast for business owners ready to transform their work life. I'm your host, Cords Lundow, a certified productivity and systems expert. I'll help you close that critical CEO gap, the gap between working hard and having real control over your business. We dive into the systems and skills of high-performing CEOs so that you can stop being stuck in daily tasks and start flourishing today. It's time to achieve simpler, higher quality living. Let's start flowing. Now, my plan is to publish on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. But I didn't really look ahead this week, and I did not realize that Monday and Friday I was going to be out of the office. And since neither of those were work days and I had not planned ahead, which is another thing I'll talk about, and I'll be posting an episode about batching that later, I wasn't able to do that. Plus, I don't have a team who can back up, because normally I would want to pre-plan this, I would pre-record it, I would schedule it and be ready, but I am not prepared. I am a Boy Scout leader and I'm always telling my Scouts to be prepared, and I was not. So here I have several reasons to beat myself up, right? I only did one episode, and part of that is because I didn't have the systems in place to pre-record and get those other episodes out. Now, I can sit here and I can beat myself up and I can say what an awful job I am. I'm a failure. Why keep going on with this podcast? Why am I even calling myself a podcaster if I can't stick to a regular schedule, if I can't batch like a professional would? And frankly, it is a lot of time. I could start making excuses as I criticize myself, why I shouldn't be doing this, why I don't need to do it, because it takes a long time to get the rewards or the feedback that I would like to get from the podcast. But right now, I know I can just have a little bit of self-compassion for myself. As business owners, we often fail at our goals. It's very common. I failed only 2 weeks after my quarter one goal. That could lead me to just be locked down in a negative spiral of criticism, self-criticism, which I am very good at doing. And that makes me more stressed, which means that I would be likely to quit. And I would tell myself I'm a failure. And the fact that I quit then will exacerbate that. Well, it adds to it, right? I'm giving myself more fuel to believe that I am a failure. And this is why I put self-compassion at the center of love and as one of the key skills that CEOs need to learn, according to my flow framework. In episode 13, I talk about my full flow frame model and how love is essential to that, and self-compassion is at the center of our love strategy. The heart of our strategic relationships in business is self-compassion. Now, a lot of times we hear of self-compassion and it seems like a lot of woo. It's too soft. It isn't appropriate for business owners. And I mean, we could say the same about love, but that is why I intentionally include it. And believe me, this is my weak point, is this side. But there is a lot of research that supports that self-compassion is going to give you a competitive edge over setting high standards and beating yourself up. I come from a long history of these high standards and beating myself up, so I'm speaking from experience here. And there are 6 reasons why I think business owners should practice self-compassion and why I put it at the center or the heart of our relationships. So let's go through those one by one. Number 1, by having self-compassion, you actually improve your performance more than criticism. Now, a lot of times in the business world, we think that we've got to be very critical and harsh self-criticism is necessary to achieve high standards, and that obviously we want high standards for a business because we want to perform better. However, the research that's been done with athletes shows that when we have this self-criticism, we actually do not perform better, but when we have self-compassion, we do perform better. Why do you think this is? Well, It's like I've talked about in some of my previous episodes. When we start beating down ourselves, it actually is triggering that fight, flight, or freeze response in our body. It sends that cortisol and adrenaline. And I talked about this in the previous episodes, that this is the kind of emotional thinking that's more in the back of your brain, that's just go quickly, and it's not as strategic and creative. And this also leads into more stress and anxiety, which will decrease your performance. So as you tell yourself, I'm not good enough, or I'm a failure, like if me on the podcast, if I say I'm not good enough, I don't deserve to have a business, then it's triggering that part of my brain and making me think that way, and actually makes me perform more poorly because I'm stressed out by these thoughts. It's like distracting me from what I really need to be doing on my business. When you use this more self-compassion, you are opening up that it's okay in that creative and problem-solving areas of the brain. This is your caregiving system. It's releasing oxytocin. So that increases your feelings of safety and allows for your better emotional regulation. So you're not kind of distracted from the real issues at hand, right? Because on that flight or fight, you've got a very narrow focus and you can't problem solve as well as when you are in this kind of more open state. So this is one reason self-compassion is better than self-criticism as a CEO. It's going to give you better thinking for improving your performance. It opens up your mind and allows you to come up with more solutions. The second reason that self-compassion is a competitive edge for business owners is it reduces your procrastination and stress. Now, this may sound a little weird. We often have as business owners, a lot of tasks that we really don't want to do, right? Like we started the business for one thing, but a million other things come up that just are part of business and we have to do. Maybe they're difficult. I mean, firing is a big one that comes up, that we just kind of procrastinate. We put it off. It's a difficult thing. We don't want to deal with it. And as we procrastinate, we actually have less self-compassion and we increase our stress. So all this procrastination has a negative effect. And because we're going into, well, why can't I do this? We're telling ourselves I'm a failure. I'm not able to do this. Or ruminating and planning, like just thinking of the negative things about this task, which we are avoiding. And that increases our stress levels. However, if you start to have a little bit of self-compassion, you stop that cycle. You're stopping the negative emotions and any kind of self-blame of like, why can't I do this? Or the whole stress levels that are going up, you're calming yourself down. So you want to treat yourself with kindness instead of judgment, even if you are procrastinating, not getting something done. Like me with this podcast, I'm not getting the 2 done. And instead of blaming myself of like, I'm a failure, why didn't I plan ahead? Why didn't I batch? Why did I tell everybody that I was doing this? I would say, you know what? I took on too much. I didn't realize what I was getting into. I haven't figured out my systems. Anybody would have the same problem. Or I don't have the teams to support me. That's more of a self-compassion. And when I do that, that makes me able to think through and deal with what I have, right? Then I can get back to work and I'm not distracted by the stress and of beating myself up. I'm able to re-engage with the work and just work. I get the 1 episode out and I can celebrate that. And then that's going to empower me to do more. Hope to get back to 3 episodes next week. And still, the goals are more of a guide than anything else. Okay, reason number 3 we want self-compassion is it increases our resilience and risk-taking. So in competitive environments like sports or business, self-compassion actually helps you bounce back. And that bouncing back is really important when you have failure. And I think, I look at my daughter, she's done competitive gymnastics and cheerleading. And I think that this is one of the main things that's been important for her is recognizing how many times you have to fail in order to succeed. And by her recognizing that it's okay to fail and make mistakes, she's able to try more and stick with it. And I think she's learned so much through that. And we need to do that with our businesses too. That, one failure does not mean we as an individual are failures or that we are not capable of running our businesses. It's a normal part. Everybody makes mistakes in business. Any business owner you talk to, they will have plenty of things that they messed up. But the important part is not how many times you messed up, but what you're learning from that and how you're going on. That's that resilience that we want and the ability to try new things. So the research shows that when you have more self-compassion and when you tell yourself it's okay when you mess up, that you're not afraid to try and fail. And you're not afraid of how people will react, that there's going to be a negative reaction. So essentially you're enabling yourself to try more, and you're only going to be able to succeed at something if you are trying it. So by expressing that self-compassion rather than criticism, we are willing to try more, risk more, and the more we try and the more we risk, the more likely we are to succeed. So if I tell myself, you know what? I messed up this week and not getting those other two out, but I can do it next week. That shows that I'm sticking with it. If I had just sat there and wallowed and I failed, I am no good at podcasting, I might as well give up. I might not have stuck with it, right? So we see that individuals who have that high self-compassion, they accept that responsibility for their mistakes and they try to find ways to improve. And more than those who beat themselves up, which is the traditional way of, just this criticism. And also that way they will not avoid those challenges to kind of protect their ego. And they're going to take the risk without that fear that a mistake is going to define their self-worth. Reason number 4 to go for self-compassion is it prevents post-event processing, which is rumination, where you just think about all the bad things. So imagine you have a sales pitch or some kind of negotiation and it goes poorly. A lot of times we as business owners, we just go into this post-event processing, which is like this negative repetitive review. Like we keep going over and over in our head. Like, I can't believe I said that. I totally blew that sale. I'll never be able to make another sale. I'll never be able to show my face in this place again. Why am I even trying this business? Obviously, this is not productive behavior, right? And research says that if you have self-compassion right after maybe a bomb or some kind of stressful social performance, you won't be having all that negative rumination because, once you have one of those, all those negative thoughts kind of feed each other. So what we're trying to do is break the cycle of those negative thoughts. So what we want to do is have that self-compassion, not just to feel better right then, but giving us that willingness to try similar events in the future. So if we have that bad sales call and we beat ourselves up over our poor performance in that sales call, we're going to be less likely to make other sales calls, but we need those sales calls to keep our business going. So when we give ourselves some self-compassion, say, you know what, it's okay. Other people had made the same mistake. Next time I can do this instead. It's not the end of the world. Tomorrow I'll make another sales call and that one may go fine. You're going to be more willing to try and make more sales calls in the future. And one bad meeting is not going to ruin your whole business or stop you from pursuing opportunities. So it's really important anytime you have a bad result to go back and think and tell yourself, give yourself some self-compassion, which I'll talk about how to do that in a little bit. Reason number 5 to have self-compassion is it promotes continuous improvement rather than avoidance. So when we have self-compassion, we like to go for mastery goals. So the idea is that we keep trying to learn and develop new skills because we see that we can do it. It's like a belief in ourselves and not accepting that mistakes are a failure of our identity, basically. But when we don't have it, when we're more critical, we have what we call performance avoidance goals. So our goal becomes, instead of trying new things and learning from them, our goal becomes, how can I avoid this activity or this behavior? I don't want to face failure again. And we'll never grow our businesses if we are always avoiding potential failures instead of looking at how we can grow and learn mastery in different things. This one small thing in front of you, then you can knock over the bigger one, the bigger one, the bigger one, until you can reach massive, maybe unimaginable goals. This is what mastery goals are. You're starting on that little one and you're telling yourself you can do it. And as you do each one, it gives you you're messaging to yourself, you're telling yourself that you can do more. And that helps you to be continuously improving. Like Mr. Beast talking about every video, you make 100 videos, each video just to improve one small thing. This is a self-improvement rather than, Mr. Beast could have been thinking, oh, well, nobody watched this video because how many years did he make videos and nobody looked at them? If he would have done that, he would have stopped many, many years ago and he would have never become the greatest YouTuber of all time, right? So we want to be practicing that self-compassion, so that we keep seeing this as a root of improvement, that it's okay, it's a natural part to make mistakes. And that allows you to take more risk. And by taking the risk, that's where you learn and you grow and you can achieve more. So self-compassionate individuals are not harshly judging themselves for the gaps in their knowledge. And because they're not looking at what they don't know, they're able to just try things out and learn new things and explore like new business opportunities, for example, out of curiosity rather than trying to stay safe. When you're always trying to stay safe, you're not going to take the risk you need to grow your business. We want to take, but feel safe and empowered to take something that stretches us, right? That's not delusional. And this is what we need for the long-term sustainability of our business. Last reason, number 6, for compassion is it improves our decision-making and accuracy. So we know that when people have low self-compassion, they tend to under-evaluate their performance. So they tend to rate it as lower than it actually was. And then they feel more distress, like embarrassment, or they're irritable when they review their work. They think about, that I'm a poor worker. Now, if they have high self-compassion, they actually are more accurate in their performance. They're less blinded. It's almost like by being critical, you become blind to your positive traits and what went well, because all you're doing is looking at the negative, so you think the whole thing is ruined. So we want to practice this self-compassion because it is giving us a more realistic evaluation of where we at, where our performance is. So as a business owner, we want to make sure that we're looking at our metrics and our performance very objectively and realistically. We don't want to be delusional about it. And if we're stuck too much in that negative spiral, we are not getting the full accurate picture. And self-compassion allows you to see your problems and your weaknesses accurately so that you can address them without being distorted. If they are blown out of proportion, they're going to distract you from what you're able to actually do. And that helps you to make clear strategic decisions. So, what do we do about this? How do we as business owners practice self-compassion without just being all soft? How can we benefit from this performance enhancing by giving ourselves these positive messages? Well, the most common way is what's called the reverse golden rule, or the friend test. You may have heard it as the friend test. This is when you pay attention to what are the things you're saying to yourself, like, especially identity-wise, like, I'm a failure. This is a very common thing, or I'm no good at this. And I've heard, when I was teaching, I heard students, I can't do history. I can't do, I'm not a good student. These are the messages they were telling themselves just because they messed up one thing. I mean, it's ridiculous that, well, I shouldn't say that, just take that out there. So notice first when you're saying something like that. Then you think about, if I had a friend who'd made this same mistake, what would I say to them? Because often what we would say to a friend is much more compassionate than what we would say to ourselves. We tend to be extremely critical of our own mistakes, but much more compassionate for our friends. So ask yourself that, and then you can get out of that kind of negative loop. And also, if you say it in third person, like I would say to myself, it's okay, Cords, everybody messes up from time to time. Not every podcaster manages to get them out according to the schedule. Or it's okay, Cords, you were expecting a lot to do the 3 episodes, and you knew that was going to be hard to manage, but you're still making 1. Okay. And that's because that's what a friend would say. And talking to yourself in your third person actually helps you to see that, and sometimes makes it easier to do that. So the second thing you can do to practice some self-compassion is a kind of reframing. And this is what I was talking about with like Mr. Beast looking at all the videos. Instead of looking at any of the failures as you're doomed, you look at it as information. It's data that's feeding you information about what to do. Because you can see, like, for example, me not making the 3 videos, I'm realizing I could still do that if I had batched. So now I need to look for a way that I can make the batching, so I'm doing all of these episodes at once, and I'm able to schedule them ahead of time. That's a kind of data. Or I could look at it and say, you know what? It's not possible for me to make 3 in a week. I need a more reasonable goal. I'm taking on too much by trying to do that. So any of those, it's kind of data. I have to look back and think about, now, why did this happen? What can I do to prevent this in the future? And again, just one thing at a time. When we try to change it all, it's too overwhelming. Just one thing at a time. So this is a growth mindset, right? That everything we're learning from, and it's not our identity. It's not fixed. We're not stuck in the mistakes that we did. So it's about the system rather than the person. The third thing we can do is just do one thing. I love this from Oliver Burkeman's Meditations for Mortals, that we simply can't do it all. And sometimes, most of the time, actually just about all the time, we try to take on too much. So maybe I am taking on too much with 3 podcast episodes a week. And we need to give ourselves permission to recognize that it's just not humanly possible for us to do all that we have on our list, all that we intend to do. And it's okay. And that's a kind of self-compassion, that recognizing our time is limited, our resources are limited, and even our time on earth, our knowledge is limited of, maybe I don't know how much is going to be involved in producing a podcast. So that's why I took on this goal. But it's okay. We don't have to, doesn't mean I still need to put those 3 episodes out and smash them all in, because I could have done that as well. Knowing that Monday and Friday were out, I could have done Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. But that was my self-compassion here, was, you know what? I have limited time. I have other things that I need to do in my week. I am only going to do the Wednesday podcast because Monday and Friday were not work days. And this is a way to kind of practice that self-compassion and just recognizing our limitations. And it's okay. We all have limitations. We are all human. There is no one out there who can do it all. We focus on what matters most to us and really just focus on doing that one high quality thing. So for me, it was just at least get this one good episode instead of smashing. I'm not going to say that mine's the best one here, but anyway, the fact that I just do one thing and I got this one out and I feel good with that. So if you know another business owner who needs to practice some self-compassion, please share this episode with them. As you share this episode with them, it helps get my message out to help those business owners who need it, because my mission is to help business owners find their flow so that they can flourish. Too many business owners start their businesses for a better life, end up being wrapped up in it, sucking their energy instead of giving them energy. And I am trying to share methods and practices and the science behind how we can set up our businesses to run in our strengths and flow with as least amount of friction so that we can find joy from them and we can flourish. Please check the show notes for all my links and a link to my no-cost business course. Thank you.